Did you notice how there was a delay between when you stimulated the axon and when the action potential appeared on the recording electrode on the other side of the axon? The action potential shape was the same as what we saw in the last section. So B was the right answer. Now, if you're used to thinking about electrical signals conducting down wires, this may seem counterintuitive. After all, if we change the voltage at one end of a wire, it changes pretty much instantaneously at the other end of the wire. Let's think about what happens in an axon. It might be helpful to review the passive membrane properties from Lesson 2, since we'll be integrating our knowledge of membrane capacitance and resistance, as well as axial resistance, all together to understand the speed of action potential propagation. An action potential is not limited to a single point on the membrane. As we saw when we studied length constants, a potential at one point on the membrane will also influence the potential of neighboring regions of the neuron. Thus, depolarization in one patch of membrane can depolarize the membrane next to it, enough to start an action potential next to it, and on and on. So now the chain reaction nature of the action potential should start coming into focus. Stimulating an action potential at one patch of membrane causes a bubble of depolarization in the membrane on either side of the stimulated region. As a reminder, this bubble of depolarization opens voltage-gated sodium channels that are a key part of the action potential. Up until now, we've seen the characteristic shape of the action potential plotted on a time versus voltage plot. What if instead we plotted the membrane potential as a function of the position along the axon? What would that waveform look like? Let's make a prediction. Would the position versus voltage plot of the action potential look most like A, basically the same shape as the time versus voltage plot, B, similar to that plot but flipped upside down, C, similar to that plot but flipped left-right, or D, a sine wave spanning the length of the axon?